Okay, today is Monday, October 7th, 2004. We'll call this regular city council meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to our city council meeting. And if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Deb.
Don.
Here.
Kathy. Here. Harmon.
Here.
Brad.
Here.
Rodney.
Here.
Jessica. Here.
Entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Don.
Yes.
Kathy. Yes. Harley.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Rodney.
Yes.
Jessica. Yes.
Motion carried. Across the mayor's desk, I want to thank our videographer today, Jackson Lynch, for helping us out. And as you know, a couple days ago on Saturday was our annual band day at the 76th. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank the volunteers and the participants who made band day happen this year, as well as thanking all those who came and watched not only the parade, but the field show competition in the evening. So also special thanks to the police department for all your work, the extra work with the street closures and the extra number of people in town. So the Tornado Alley Run, as you know, started at 8 o'clock in the morning. We want to thank Nick Deers and his crew for that. The parade was at 1 o'clock, and then the field show competition out at Algona High School was at 5:30. I did see where there were 15 cities that participated, that brought bands. There were 900 students, band students that came and participated. The largest band had 105 students and the smallest had 16. So quite a range there. And both Bishop Garrigan and Algona High School showed very well. So, and Band Day has always showcased well all through these years. So we celebrated the 76th year, and this year the weather certainly cooperated. So. Does council have anything that they would like to share? Hearing nothing, then I'd like to have an update from the city administrator.
Yeah, a couple items to share. The splash pad, last day was on Sunday, so that is now closed for the season, and we'll be winterizing that. And looking forward to opening it back up next May. And then later this month, we have Halloween coming up on Thursday, October 31st. And at the last council meeting, we established the citywide trick-or-treat hours for 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. That evening. Last week, we finished doing the annual smoke testing of the sanitary sewer system on the south side and the east sides of town. So there's a number of households that got a flyer on the door, and I'm sure saw our press releases notifying of that. So that work's now all completed, and the purpose of that is to blow smoke into the system, try to identify where we maybe have leaks, cracks, improper connections on the public side of the sanitary sewer system, to try to shore that system up. And then we will be talking about this at the end of the meeting a bit more, but the sanitary sewer inspection program on the private side, looking for legal connections, footing drains, things like that. We're going to be starting inspections on that this October. So we have 4 different sectors that are our target areas. With that, what we're calling the South Main or the Bertha Godfrey neighborhood, there's about 200 homes that I believe the letter either arrived over the weekend or came in today, notifying them that they're in an inspection area, and the instructions on how to go about getting a inspection set up through the city and WHKS, at no cost, but to do that inspection, as well as informing them of an upcoming public meeting, which will be Tuesday, October 15th at 6 p.m. at the Algona Public Library. That's specific for the South Main Street area. The other 3 districts will be looking at smoke testing over the winter and spring of '25.
Literal inspection and smoke testing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, doing the lateral and footing drain inspections in 25, and then there are letters in the public meeting for those sectors will come out at a later date. So if people are in one of those sectors, unless they received a letter, letting them know it means they're on that later list. And then I'd like to invite Joanne up to share an update.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to take a short opportunity to let you know about kind of a fun workshop that's coming to town that's being co-sponsored by Algona Area Economic Development and Teens Entrepreneurial Center and the Travel Iowa people. The Iowa Tourism Office does a lot of free marketing tools that helps businesses kind of push themselves out to tourists and visitors. So we're going to be having a free workshop called Tourism Tools and Tips, Free Marketing Tools to Boost Your Business. And we're really hoping that we can get some of our local museums, restaurants, shops, attractions, things like that in Algona and kind of in the region too, because it's also great opportunities for some of our wineries and breweries and places you would visit if you were kind of, I mean, it's great for us to visit them, but it's even better if we can pull in a few folks from out of town. So, and the Iowa Tourism Office does a really good site called Travel Iowa, where once you create your profile, good for golf courses too. Just wanted to just feel like I should say. Once you have an account on there, you can put pictures and videos and information and all this stuff, and then they do all the pushing out to different tourists, and then they pull from those different profiles when they're like top 10 places to visit a splash pad, you know, then they would look, and if we're on there, that's the kind of where they pull that information and those data and those pictures from. So, but the first step is having that account and having those photos and videos on there. So that's what this workshop is going to be about. You know, how do you set that up? How do you optimize it so people will want to look at it and see it? And how do you add pictures and photos and some of the other free marketing tools that are available? So it's going to be out at Iowa Lakes on the Algona campus. You can register. It's free, but you still have to register because we want to know how many people are coming. It's on October 22nd at 7:30 in the morning, so kind of a breakfast session, but we will not be providing breakfast, but you can provide your own breakfast or have a couple people who are doing it, and then a session over the lunch hour at 11:30. So if you or anybody you know kind of falls into that category of small business and you want to kind of push out some of your stuff with these free tools, encourage them to come. If you have questions, you can talk to me about it, you can talk to Shelley Brown about it, you can register on the Iowa Lakes website under continuing education. Any questions about that? Great, thanks guys. And the city newsletter is up there on the website in both Spanish and English, so if anybody in your circle is looking for that on Spanish, or is looking for that Spanish edition of the newsletter, direct them to the website because it is up there and hopefully easy to read, so thanks.
And then finally, I'd like to invite up one of our newer members of the community, but someone we're excited to have here, and that is Todd Ferris, who recently was named the next executive director of Cassup County, Palo Alto County Economic Development. So, Todd?
Hello, everybody. As he said, my name's Todd Ferris. Just recently moved here to Algona. We actually closed on our house on September 4th and moved family here. I come from Centerville, Iowa, which I've told a lot of the folks in Centerville that I'm moving from the Missouri border to the Minnesota border, which is basically what's happened. Centerville is down in south central Iowa, very close to the Missouri border, south of Ottumwa, Knoxville, Oskaloosa, if any of that makes sense, Sheraton, south of all those. I've lived there my professional life of 34 years, and my wife had never moved from there until this last month. So it's kind of a big move for us. We my family, and then I'll talk about what I had done before here, but so I've been married 31 years. My wife works for the Iowa Department of Ag over in the Garner USDA office now. And she'd spent 20 years doing that down in Appaloosa County, where we come from, down in Centerville. I've got 2 children. I've got a son who's 28. He's an occupational therapist, lives in Ankeny. And I have a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman in high school here in town of Algona. So, and yes, I realize they're 14 years apart. So we've had 2 only children, which is awesome. No more. But anyway, so the last 16 years I've been involved in economic development. So I spent 9 years as the Appaloosa Economic Development Director, or Executive Director of the Economic Development Organization, covering 1 county. And then I was pursued by the Rural Electric Cooperative down in that area called Sheraton Valley Electric. They came to me and asked if I would come to work with them and start a new economic development organization for them, or department for them, for their service territory, which is parts of 7 counties. So that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years. Learned of the opening, looking to be filled through Maureen, and I've known Maureen actually for the last 16 years. So we've been friends and colleagues for all that time, and I've been familiar with her work up here, and so actually it's an honor to be able to follow in her footsteps and look to carry on. I know you guys are probably pretty aware of, they've done a lot with the revolving loan funds and working with electric cooperatives in the area with for businesses. And so I have a lot of experience in that, where I was the administrator of a revolving loan fund that in my 9 years, I did 51 loans with local businesses, and I was the only employee. I was the only person doing all that. And then when I went to the co-op, we started utilizing the USDA funds, and there was also the co-op had a revolving loan fund as well. And so in the 7 years I was there, we did a little over $22 million in loans, and that was part of about $86 million projects. So I do have some experience there that hopefully can be utilized in this area. So I don't know if you have any questions, but at least that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of.
Welcome to the area, and glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Obviously, Todd, we're happy to have him here. He brings a lot of experience with them. But right now, we're a little bit of an overlap in the transition. So, can you talk about that?
Thank you for mentioning that. Yes. So lucky for me, both boards of both Kossuth and Palo Alto counties encouraged Maureen, and she also encouraged them for her to stay on for a little while to help introduce me around. And so she's had a very somewhat intense daily schedule of us being in different communities in both counties, meeting with mayors and meeting with council people. And so I was in Burt this morning. We were in Mallard last Friday. We were in West Bend the day before that. And we've been in Grettinger and Sway City and all over the place, Wesley, and there's more still all the rest of this week. Maureen will officially retire on November 15th, and so I think she has shared when that is, so hopefully all of you can pop in and see her at the election center. Thank you. And wish her well, and she's luckily for all of us, she's not moving away. She's going into retirement in Whittemore, but she's not. My first question of her was, "You're not gonna move to Arizona or something like that?" But she said no, and I said great, because I just wanted to make sure that I could still follow up with her as needed. And I know the importance of, after running organizations myself, there's that. You feel really a strong connection with the people you've worked with all that time, and so I want to be able to pick her brain every once in a while, and she's willing to do that. So she is still involved, very involved, all the way up until the 15th of November.
When's that, her retirement at the election center event?
November 15th.
Okay, it's
November
November
15th.
15th.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, we know you're looking forward to the northern winters compared to winters in the south.
Yes, yeah, a little bit, apprehensive that it'll be,
It'll be
we've
fun.
been in that banana boat area of Iowa for most of my life, so.
Well, thank you for sharing, and again, welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We'll move to the consent agenda then, and that includes approving the minutes from our last council meeting on September 16th, and also approving the bills to be paid this cycle.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion from Harley, second from Rodney. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Vote please, Deb.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried. We'll move to new business agenda item number 9. This involves repayment of a small business revolving loan fund loan.
This resolution acknowledges the repayment of and the release of the mortgage used to secure the loan for the 2019 Small Business Revolving Loan Fund to Steyer Flooring. That loan has been paid off, so this resolution documents that.
Move to approve. Second. We have a motion from Don, second from Rodney to approve this resolution. Any discussion? Vote please, Dale.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 10, this resolution approves AMU quick claim deed.
Yeah, this is more or less a housekeeping item, and John, feel free to jump up and say anything if I miss anything right here for the next item, but what this does is a quick claim deed to create a consistent naming style on all the properties that are owned by the city for the benefit of AMU, or i.e. managed and utilized by Algona Municipal Utilities. So over the decades, as the city's acquired property, this one's City of Algona, AMU, they've all got slightly different names. So this takes the properties that are already there, quick claim deed, and just gets those all in the same naming style for that consistency.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Harley, second from Jessica. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Don,
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 11, this is a resolution concerning the contingent voluntary annexation.
The city has an application for contingent annexation of a little over 50 acres of property north of city limits on the west side of Highway 169. That contingency is based on some federal and state funding and approvals for a project that I'll let John Bilstein speak on.
Great, thank you all. This is, as Jacob said, a contingent application or acknowledgement of annexation for a project that would be used for solar installation. For that property, that's about 58 acres, as Jacob indicated, approximately 15 acres of it, if moved forward, would include solar. That is the equivalent of 2.5 megawatts of solar, which, to put that in a little better perspective, is about 4,900,000 kilowatt hours annually of energy production. And to kind of break that down a little bit more, that's about 4% of our overall annual energy consumption here in Algona. So this agreement would not be specifically between the property owner and Algona Municipal Utilities, but instead a third party. And then Algona Municipal Utilities, if we get all of these things worked out, would enter into what we call a purchase power agreement to take the energy from the project. We would do that because a third party that has a tax appetite can get federal tax credits that we cannot as a municipal or city-owned utility. So then that translates into a lower rate in a purchase power agreement. We would then enter into an agreement. We have a rate. It is contingent, again, upon some federal funding, USDA grant funds that this third party would get. We'd enter into a 25-year purchase power agreement with the option to extend that down the road at a fixed amount of energy that overall at this point we anticipate provides a slight reduction in our overall energy cost and increases our renewable energy footprint here in Algona and for the utility. So again, about 15 acres. of that property would have solar on it. Most likely, what we think we'd have would be a fixed solar installation, so it wouldn't be tracking based on the sun. With solar projects, you see a slight degradation from year to year, but we're starting out, again, a little under 5 million kilowatt hours of production anticipated over a 12-month period, or about 4% of our energy. Pretty close to what our wind farm produces for us. You may have some questions more specific to that, please, if you've got them.
Yeah, why only 15 acres out of 50, or whatever it is your total? Close to 54. 54, okay.
Great question. It's all relative to the capacity on the electric distribution system out at that site. We would do some upgrades to it, but today we only have the ability on that direct feeder to handle that much energy. So in the future, we may be able to upgrade that and add more solar there, but that's the maximum amount through our analysis that we could handle on that feeder, assuming that it doesn't all get consumed right there. It has to come back to the substation and then go back out to other consumers. That's all we can, in terms of an engineering standpoint, handle today.
So what's with the rest of the property then? I mean, are you looking at
So-
maybe eventually upgrading to add more?
There could, yeah, that could potentially happen out there, yes. But as of right now, I would assume the rest of it would either, I don't know what the plans would be, if it would continue to be farmed, go into CRP, I'm not sure. But only a small portion of it would be used for the solar today.
And that kind of goes to my next question is, I know there was some talk of another property using it, and I thought that that made more sense because this is good ag land. I kind of would prefer to see solar going in areas where you're not taking ag land out of production.
Yeah, and that's simply, the third party that we're working with had already worked this out with the property owner before they even came to us. So they already had an option, they didn't have an agreement, so they got an option in place and then came to us as a utility and said, would you be interested in talking about a potential solar project? Again, because they've got some benefits through tax credits. The other property down by our well field that we had looked at a few years ago, we plan to use a portion of that for wellhead. We also are going to most likely put a detention pond in there for the effluent that comes out of the water treatment plant, our backwash effluent that today goes into the wastewater treatment plant, which the city, you don't really want that necessarily to treat it, even though it's fairly clean. You still got to run it through the plant. We don't really want to send it down the sanitary sewer either. So we're looking at more of a natural filtration. So we're starting to take some bigger chunks out of that property. We may still have land available for solar in the future, but the project we were working with a few years ago was significantly higher cost than what we're talking about today. So we found a potential partner to work with that is going to provide a lower cost of energy for solar for us. So that's why we ended up there. And again, we don't have an agreement in place yet. I think we're very close, but this is a step to getting that in place.
Well, I think this would be a good move if nothing else to give us something to get started in solar.
Yeah,
You know, 15 acres is not bad to start out and see how it's going to work.
yeah, that's exactly right. And we're looking at some other opportunities, we are all the time, for some solar, and there may be some new funding opportunities that may make it feasible for Algona Municipal Utilities to actually own the solar ourselves versus a purchase power agreement.
John, since we're already talking about that land, there west of the Ridgely substation, would you mind kind of sharing a quick update on some of the activity people might have seen out there at the lake?
Some of the mining.
Oh, yes, yeah. So we have, I think as most of you know, this was on the radio, that 2 months ago, the Board of Trustees entered into a lease agreement for a little small tract. Jacob's kind of showing the area roughly, that we leased some land. This is a 3-year lease with the option to extend that for a company called Simple Mining, based in Cedar Falls. And what they're doing, it's a data center, but they are doing Bitcoin mining there. They host Bitcoin mining. on that site. So you'll see today 6 shipping containers, and quite literally, those are old shipping containers that have been repurposed. Inside of those are just a bunch of slots and a small computer in each of those, and they do algorithms. I'm already telling you more than I know. They do algorithms to try to win the Bitcoin for any given day or any given hour on it. So we've set that up, being very sensitive to the community and trying to be very proactive. We spent quite a bit of time, several months, working with them, working on a lease that we think would be favorable again for the community, and then also being aware of probably one of the biggest issues you have with that type of thing is noise. So that's why it's sitting where it is. That's why any of the noise that goes out of that goes more towards the north, where we don't have much for population and should dissipate very quickly. We set up specific decibel level readings and metrics that need to be met along the road there, Ridgely Street, both near the community gardens, by the Finn House, by the first home that's there. Obviously our biggest concern are the property owners and the people that live down there, to make sure that we did not exceed a typical or best practice decibel level. And then we worked with an acoustical engineer who's worked with several municipalities and developers to make sure that the level we had in conjunction with Jacob and Barb and DeVere made sure that we met the city ordinance on nuisance, so that we did not have any nuisance there. There will still be things, if you drive down there, the ground still has additional work that has to be done. Fencing is going to go up. A building just came in today, and that building actually is expandable, so quite interesting. It flips up, expands out. It'll be about a 20-foot wide by, I think that's like 18 foot long. There will be 2 full-time employees there when everything's done, so within the next couple months. And it is directly interconnected to the substation. The Board of Trustees and AMU staff were very sensitive, again, not only to its impact on the citizens, the people who live there, but also to all of us as electric consumers, that we did not have anything negative that would affect electric rates. So this company is paying for everything. All interconnection cost, any studies that we have to do, they're paying for all of it. They're on a rate that is specific to that type of customer, not specific to them, but any customer that would fit that type of Bitcoin or data center or that type of load, and they're interruptible. So if we have scenarios where we have potentially high energy cost, or we have a system issue, we can interrupt them. They can shut down their whole operation within 4 minutes. Within us telling them, we do have the ability to simply open a breaker if we need to, and just completely shut them down. We both would prefer not to do that, but if we had an emergency, we would do that. So an example of why we would have them curtail would be like Winter Storm Uri. That happened a few years ago when the price of energy was through the roof. We were generating locally. We wouldn't want that load on, so they would curtail during those time periods. High energy time periods, they'll curtail. But most of the time, they are what we call a perfect electrical customer. They will run 24/7, and they will be just a flat load. So they have a really good load factor and a good electrical customer. And we think that we have done everything we can proactively to make sure that there is no negative impact on the community or the utility or our consumer owners. But that's an exciting project for us, a first, for us to work through, and there's still some things that need to be done down there on the site. And we're continuing to work with them on that.
Now, when you talked about a little computer in each one, my little computer here makes virtually no noise. So I assume you got a very powerful computers in there.
It is very powerful, and the
A lot of
noise,
heat and
yeah, and the noise is really the fans.
Yeah.
So it's the cooling system. It's just naturally fan-driven cooling. There's no air conditioning. It's just pushing through air, and that's the noise that would come out of there. And heat. So if you're on the other side of it, which really nobody is, there won't be as much snow right there. So it can certainly kick out some heat. And they have They have a really great reputation working for a number of utilities that we worked with and talked to, including Cedar Falls Utility, Heartland Power Cooperative, another cooperative, which I forgot the name, in western Iowa. But we've spent a significant amount of time vetting them, we think, and working with them. A few of us went to their sites in Cedar Falls, looked at those. And again, we do quite a bit of work with Cedar Falls Utilities, so we had good discussions with them about them as a customer and a corporate citizen. Feel very good about the project.
So I just have a question on back to the solar.
Yes?
Thank you for that, by the way, it's kind of cool to know what's going on down there. But back to the solar, so my concern with it is because the county has a moratorium on solar, now we're annexing this property into the city. What's the potential now that we're setting a precedent with other surrounding landowners to say, well, the county won't let us do it, we'll just go to the city and they'll annex us in and let us put solar on?
Sure. In this project, the discussion of annexation started several months ago, well before the county ever made a decision on the moratorium. So the annexation wasn't relative to the moratorium. The annexation was really relative to the location, and there are not a lot of pieces of property that really sit perfect like this that abut the city limits, where it was just more that the property owner said, we think we can annex. This is a project that's for Algona Municipal Utilities and the Algona community, and we knew that between city staff and AMU, we would do our due diligence to make sure that we had a good project that didn't provide any negatives, again, for the community.
So I know it's been over a year that we've been discussing this project, just kind of been like, well, when do we, start moving on some of these things when it is contingent and a lot of still, moving parts, but just when we, a few weeks ago, we just kind of had a status update on kind of where things are outstanding. It's like, I still kind of got this on the docket. Let's at least kind of start the formality process as a city, so if, they get the good news, all right, we at least kind of got that step out of the way, to move forward.
Yeah,
Also, the county is notified about this contingent annexation. They will be notified at least 2 weeks before we hold the public hearing in November.
And when we began this process, you're right, we talked with county officials very early on, and again, before they ever had contemplated a moratorium or went ahead with it. So working really with the engineer's office, who's the zoning group over there. And I should also state again that the AMU Board of Trustees has not entered into any agreements with this third party as of yet. So that's why, again, key term is contingent, because we need a few things to come together for this project to move ahead. If it doesn't, I am quite certain there will be other opportunities for us, which may be right down there on Ridgely Street and other locations to look at solar. Thank you for your questions.
Any other questions for John?
Where's the location of the panels gonna be? Is it gonna be visible from the road or not?
They'll be, so if we look at that site, they're gonna be, yeah, they will be, they'll be on the north, so from the business that sits right there at that northeast corner, they're gonna come down a little bit south of that. And we've had some discussions with the company that would lease that property, looking at, are there any things we need to do for visual shielding? We need to put some trees in there, things like that. Doing a little bit, and I think some of that will be again with the property owner, working with them since it's their property. Looking at it, but yeah, you'll see some from the road.
Anything else?
So are we doing anything? I mean, we still have to have the hearings.
The hearing will be at the first meeting in November,
Yep.
and that'll be the contingent It'll be a hearing contingent on all of this other things taking place. And then Paul and I have discussed, if everything goes forward, we'll hold one more public hearing and pass a final resolution that will get sent to the state then.
So we're actually making a motion for a contingent resolution.
At this point, this resolution is acknowledging that we've received an application for annexation and setting a public hearing regarding it.
Make a motion to move forward with the resolution, contingency resolution.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Don. Any further discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you all, and while I'm here, and I know this isn't citizens' opportunity, but let me quickly say that Monday is our fall hydrant flushing, so we'll be putting some things out. You may have already seen it on Facebook, maybe in the paper, on the radio. I'll be talking to Barbara about putting it out on the alert system as well, but it's our typical time of year, best practice to flush our mains, check our hydrants, and try to do it twice a year. And we work around our customer needs, but basically our largest water customer, which is Hormel. Hormel's not in operation or production on Monday, so those are typically the days we try to set, working with them.
Good. Meet Monday, October 14th.
Correct, thank you. Monday, October 14th.
Good. Thanks again, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 12. This is a resolution approving sanitary sewer usage rate for a non-metered water user.
Back in August, we amended the city ordinance regarding how we bill customers that are served by the city sanitary sewer but are not on AMU water or on a metered water service. So one of the couple of properties we have in town where this exists is the Bedford Precast on North Park Drive there by Betts Park. So back when we did a sewer project in 2020 or 2021, I believe, at that time we had them tie into our sanitary sewer. The long-term plans will be when that road's done, AMU would extend water, but at this point in the development of the system, there's not water extended there yet, so they don't have the option to hook up. So in accordance with that ordinance change, which previously had been, there was a flat amount set, and that was the flat amount. What this does is for the estimated usage, and then for the infrastructure fee, what those are going to be based on. So the service fee would be, the fee established at any given time, adjusting with increases. For the usage fee, working with AMU in the sewer department, looking at their manufacturing process, what they have for toilets, sinks, utilities, things like that. That came up to the estimated water usage, and then that amount would be taken times what the billing rate is, and then for the infrastructure fee is based on meter size equipment that would be needed to provide that estimated usage that's actually entering the sanitary sewer system. So this resolution documents those quantities on the usage and the meter size to be used for calculating those bills moving forward.
I'm surprised we had water down to the park and down to the, that area that was never extended east.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Harley, second from Kathy. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 13 pertains to Nebraska street closure on October 31st.
So the Methodist Church will be hosting their annual trunk or treat event on Thursday the 31st. It is from 5 to 7, or excuse me, 5:30 to 7 this year. So they requested the same setup as last year, which would be closing those 2 blocks of Nebraska Street from Dodge Street to Harlan Street. That was extended last year for 1 block, and based on the turnout, it was well used. And so we recommend, based on the request, approving those 2 block closures. And then we'll close it late that afternoon and open the parking sign so people get set up and get cars out of that park area.
Move to approve.
Great, man.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Jessica. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harlan?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 14 involves rezoning of property.
I received a rezoning request from Clegg Property Rentals LC to rezone a portion of the property he purchased from residential RS60 to light manufacturing. He wants to put some storage units and such up there. He split these properties in half and made two parcels of them. The one parcel will remain residential. The other parcel will become light manufacturing, which will abut to other light manufacturing areas there on North Main Street. This is just referring to planning and zoning and then setting the date for a public hearing in 2 weeks.
Refer to P and Z.
Second.
Motion from Barley, second from Don to refer this to Planning and Zoning Commission. Any discussion?
And set the
Can we
public
add
hearing.
That's a public
refer,
hearing.
yeah,
And
refer to
set the
P and
public
Z
hearing.
and
That's
set
the
the
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
For October 21st.
For October.
Vote please, Deb.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Harlan?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 15 pertains to the sanitary sewer connection inspection program.
So I provided a copy of a template of the letter that was sent out last week to the one sector for the sewer inspection program. Let me just pull up the map here real quick. With the caveat, there's a few tweaks on a couple edges that still have to be made to include a couple properties on this map, but following the storms and the sewer backups that we had this summer, based on the direction from the council, we worked with WHKS Engineering to come up with a inspection program, which was approved earlier this year. With that, we've identified 4 sectors that will be our target areas for the inspections. These target areas were developed based on where we've seen historic backups and had known issue areas, as well as going through our files, newspapers, things like that, and what documentation we have, that indicates that, when these buildings were built, there's a high likelihood of footing drains connected. So in all, I think between these 4 sectors, there's about 650 properties. We are planning to start this fall with the red sector, which we refer to as like South Main, or Bertha Godfrey. So the owners in this neighborhood, if they haven't, will shortly be receiving a letter notifying them of the inspection. There are about 20 properties within that area that were inspected recently, and with their letter, they got a notice that this property is exempt from inspection, and the only way they're exempt is if the city otherwise, the footing drain has been inspected and verified that does not exist. So that's from previous inspections that the city's conducted, primarily being from when the sewer, private property sewer program, the grinder pumps were installed. Those were installed to verify there's not a connection. And then when in 2021, when Main Street was reconstructed with that, we televised from the inside all the homes along that for reconstruction. And none of those homes did have footing drains. So those homes that were just recently inspected, we're not going to duplicate and have another inspection. But 90+% will get that inspection. So that letter went out and instructed residents to there's a number they can call to register, or each letter has a unique username and login. They can go in online, log in, and schedule an inspection. Inspections will begin the week of October 17th. No, I'm saying that doesn't sound right. So the week of the 21st is when inspection would start. They expect 3 to 4 weeks to knock through those 200 homes. Their goal is to really try to get a full schedule every day. I think as of about noon today, there's already 12 people signed up. So people can, encourage them to sign up sooner than later. We do have a public meeting on that Tuesday the 15th. That'll be at the library at 6 p.m. and that's just to explain a little bit about the program, how the inspection works, answer any questions. But people can certainly sign up before that meeting or afterwards. So with that red sector inspections taking place this fall, we anticipate the yellow, blue, and green will occur in spring of 25, or if there's a way we can get those to move up sooner than later. We'd like to knock those out as many as we can as fast as possible. With that inspection notice sent to those in the red sector, and I printed off a copy of our city ordinance regarding inspections. So the city superintendent or their designee has the authority to enter properties to inspect to make sure that all connections discharge going into the city sanitary sewer system is compliant with city code, federal, state regulations. And with that, upon giving notice of an inspection, property owners have 30 days to schedule that inspection. And then if they don't schedule that inspection, the city can encourage them to do so by imposing a $10 a day fine, imposing a municipal infraction if illegal connection is already known. In this case, we don't know those definitively known, so it'd be either a $10 a day fine or a $100 a month surcharge if they refuse to get an inspection. There's in the letter, we're going to be emphasizing this in kind of a public communication, that this is a mandatory. There is a timeline on when you get this order that you need to get an inspection scheduled. Now, there are circumstances and it's scheduled and then something happens and they call back and hey, I have to reschedule. We're certainly going to work with them on that, or if someone's out of town, but it's really, we want to make sure that get these as many done yet this calendar year as possible in that red sector. Some of the things that we'll be discussing here in a moment will be kind of our enforcement of that timeline. I really have kind of two elements of enforcement. There's one, the inspection, and then if there's an illegal connection found, correcting that inspection. But before we get to that, kind of a couple of things that are still to be determined, or the details to be ironed out, would be, if you look at a cost share program. So we had discussed, previously, we established that up front. Then when we started looking at our inspection area and the potential number of footing drains, we thought it was more prudent to let's get an idea of what the potential, realistic universe is out there. Do we have 15% connections or 65% connections? What's potentially feasible for the sewer utility to assist. Ultimately, if there's illegal connections from the private side, that is the responsibility of the homeowner to correct that at their expense. But as previous councils have discussed, and as we had with this council, we want to look at if it makes sense to entertain some cost sharing item potentially on the footing drain removal, which can be the more expensive side of the correction. So we know we'll get some questions. If I find an illegal connection, what's it going to cost? What's the city going to pay? Our answer right now will be that, well, we're not going to order the inspection to be done this fall, or actually order the correction to be done this fall or this winter. It would be, we know the correction is going to be made next spring if it's a footing drain or summer. they'd have to do it urgently without that being determined. But then once we get an idea of where we're at on that percent of illegal connections, kind of extrapolating that out, then use that to better inform what a cost share program might look like. On that enforcement, if there's an illegal connection found, so they're going to be inspecting for all types of clear water that may be entering the system. So that's what we're just referring to as a sewer connection inspection program. In the 2013-2015, we called that the sump pump inspection program, and that looked at sump pumps, roof drains, but did not look at footing drains, because footing drains require a camera from the inside to verify that. So if people had an inspection done in 2013-2015, this is a different type of inspection. It will re-inspect those items previously done to verify those results and that nothing's been done, a sump pump was corrected, that someone's, put a sump pump back illegally. So the real emphasis is that footing drain, because all those properties had, should have had corrected other connections at that, back in 2013, 2015, but like I said, everything will be inspected. When it comes to enforcement, if it's things like roof drains, sump pumps that are relatively straightforward, we would propose following what's currently laid out in our ordinance, which is giving a 90-day notice to correct. Those are relatively straightforward fixes. When it comes to the footing drains, that's going to require plumber, excavator, disconnecting that, a lot more intensive work. So we wouldn't expect any of those, or we wouldn't mandate any of those. People are welcome to do on their own sooner than later, but we wouldn't mandate any of those corrections to be made until calendar year 25, after we've already vetted, the whole potential cost share scenario. But then having a deadline that if you had a connection, this is the date it has to be fixed. If you don't have it fixed by this date, that's when a monthly surcharge would kick in to capture the cost of that illegal connection entering the system, as well as to encourage that correction to be made sooner than later, and that would be that under a legal connection code of what we can charge for that on a monthly basis. So we're kind of tentatively looking at, this is what we've kind of discussed in-house, was for fall inspections of 24, a September 2025 correction date. They should know by middle of November their status, so that would give them 9 months to plan for that. And then those inspections that we would anticipate taking place in April or May, having an end of calendar year 25 correction date on those. The other way we do it is, okay, based on the day of your inspection, then you have so many days from that date, and that gets a lot more complicated in tracking those dates. So we can kind of chunks, but reasonable chunks, that it's not overextending that time, but not extremely short. As well as some of those we're going to want to look at, again, how much work has to be done. We think our local contractors have enough capacity to knock that many out. And so those will kind of be some of the considerations as we kind of shuffle our way forward and the final details on implementation. So that's kind of on the enforcement, on the correction side of things, if an illegal connection is found. Prior to that, we've got the order that the property needs to be inspected. As I mentioned, there's about 20 properties that are already exempt. Another way someone does not have to be inspected, if they have a plumber sign, they can hire a plumber to perform the inspection, use our city form and sign off that it was inspected, it's good. Or if it was recently inspected by a licensed plumber, if they had work done and that plumber using that same form, would attest to, back in 2018, I did this work and it's corrected, then we would accept that as, okay, it's been inspected and it's not connected. And the other would be that they can, sign up for the inspection that would be done by WHKS. And then if they don't want to pursue any of those options, they can pay a monthly surcharge of $100 a month in lieu of having an inspection done. So when we get, so that's, we'll revisit this on the 21st, but kind of wanted to kind of get a little bit of background since I had missed the last meeting. I apologize for that, kind of where we're at in our thinking and proposing on this of, setting those deadlines for, all right, at this date, this is when enforcement kicks in, where we want that to fall, how lenient do we want to be, extend that out further. But I think, just for, with this many properties, this large of an area, we're gonna want, these are the dates, we're moving on those, for consistency and fairness of those receiving that inspection. Hopefully, it's a very, very small number that, don't get inspected and, hopefully take care of them in a couple calls. But, kind of need that, stick, if you will, the carrot and stick, sides of things, that if someone isn't, getting inspected and just refuses of, all right, this is how we need to make sure that this is addressed appropriately.
Any questions for,
No, I just think it's good, we're gonna have a good follow-through program. Last thing is good follow-through afterwards, so. It's important we do that.
anything else there, Jacob, for that? Okay.
No, but so at the next meeting, we'll probably have an action item. Either our code already states these timelines, just kind of memorializing so everyone's on the same page. And all right, if you've been ordered to give an inspection, have an inspection done, unless for kind of otherwise approved unique circumstances. It's not done by this date. It's not really scheduled by this date. This is when those fees would kick in. And then laying out the timeline for if there's illegal connections, this is the expected date that they would be corrected. Just we kind of start filling in some of those blanks on questions we'll know we'll get from, from homeowners.
Okay. And final agenda item number 16, capital project plans.
Yeah, this was, I want to give a few updates. I'll work around a few projects. So what I did upload the updated version of our street capital improvement plan that has some updated cost estimates from Bolton Mink, but generally, these are all streets that were previously identified, and the costs we have were still pretty darn close. There this week, I'm meeting with PFM, who's our municipal financial consultant, to go over what we're looking at borrowing in general obligation debt in 2025. We'll be looking at that to fund calendar year 25 and 26 projects. Right now, we're kind of playing out scenarios between 3.5 to 5 million. Some of that looking at and what might be available through. We don't have to go out and borrow for it through the bond muni market, but that we can get through grants or zero interest loans through some of the state funding sources. And then, as our past borrowing in 21, trying to borrow for at least 2 years worth of projects, just because of those one-time costs and efforts that we have to go through when you issue debt. We'll have to go through getting rated by Moody's and, paying our bond counsel, paying our financial consultant, and so try to, not have to borrow every year, but borrow for a couple projects at a time. We're looking at kind of some of our interest rates and things like that. So for what we're looking at for 2025, would be for streets, would be phase 1 of the Nebraska Street, Thornton Street parking lot. So that's those 2 blocks. Thornton Street, and then the 1 block in Nebraska, and the Thornton, Nebraska Street parking lot here downtown. And then with that, that proposed borrowing range, and that would cover our borrowing for the general fund costs or the street department costs for phase 1 reconstruction of South Minnesota, which is on the CIP plan for 2026. And then any kind of balance of that would be the mill and overlay projects in 2026 or 27. And then we wouldn't be looking at another round of borrowing until 2027 or 2028. Outside of borrowing, but just planned for next year, we also got the 4 paved Pacific Railroad crossings. The final phase of the airport runway extension project, of actually paving the runway, and then the ongoing sanitary sewer improvement project. It's kind of our real heavy construction projects that we're looking at. Some of the updates on things that are currently active is down at Veterans Park. You may have noticed a few changes here in the last couple of months. So the dog park, the fence contractor is supposed to be here last week, but should be this week now. But we've got a sidewalk paved from the parking lot to the dog park, and then removing the gate locations, and those will be replaced. And then there's still some sidewalk work to be finished up that will have the curb cut and kind of more of a better kind of entrance point from the parking lot, from a hashed parking zone to access that sidewalk. And like I said, those gates should be, or actually that fencing should be installed this week, not shortly thereafter. The funding for this project is provided by city budgeted funds, but grants and funding from the Algona leadership class, and it was Rotary. I wanted to make sure I didn't misspeak on that, for the local grant that they got. Some other things that we're still kind of working on, coming up with some final options and plans would be some shade structures, but those likely wouldn't be something installed until next calendar year, when we're at the season. So that's exciting to see that work being done. The batting cage, which is just, pull the map, I guess. Which is moved out of Central Park. The pad for that was poured just east of the basketball court here. And so the poles for that will get set, and then there'll be a net on that that will get taken down and put up seasonally. But that concrete work is done. And then south there of the Veterans Park entrance, this was an item that the Parks and Rec Commission approved back in January, but a lot of the trees in this area were in very poor shape. There are several ash trees, just kind of dead, diseased, very poor shape. So we started looking through, okay, which trees slated for removal. It was going to take out pretty much all of them, as well as that those trees being right over 2 sewer interceptor lines, which is some of our most critical infrastructure. We thought best to get those trees out of there. So working with the Parks and Rec Commission, they approved that. So those removals have been done, and then it will be reseeded, and we're going to be putting some prairie grasses in there for some habitat on that hillside. So kind of swapping trees for some more native plantings in that area. And then we did have the storm intake there, just on the east side of the driveway. That was closed here for a few days last week. That got damaged with all the flooding that we had, so that intake has been fixed. And then with the park side of things, Central Park, we really just have a few punch list items outstanding. Some of those we're waiting for the splash pad company to come back and to do our training here this fall on the winterization. And then some of those items, like when it comes to trees and grass being established, we'll kind of project will be open until next year. We can evaluate all those items. But once the splash pad got up and running, it ran great. Just kind of your typical things that need to be tweaked here and there with the contractor, but yeah, it was nice to be able to keep that open in October. Our working plan is to kind of always target Band Day as our closing date, kind of looking what other cities did that have recirculating systems, but just kind of play it by ear based on what the temps are looking like. If that needs to move up, if we can keep it open later, okay, it's already there, I'll use it.
Yeah.
It's a nice desk for it this year. It was very occupied, for sure.
Yeah. So it seems like the last couple of years, Band has been really hot, but when I said that, I had people correct me, like, well, if you've been here more than just the last couple of years, sometimes it's really cold on Band.
Going back just a little bit here, you talked about the railroad crossings we're gonna work on next year.
Yep.
About how long an apron do those have on each side?
I know each one varies,
Is it different?
based on, because all of them, the grade is slightly changing. On Finn Drive, I know I can ask the engineers if they've got some more detailed information, but I know, like, for example, on Finn Drive, we told them, well, that one, we know we're gonna be doing north to, finish that road section, so you might as well err on the side of, let's continue going, a little bit further north, when we do those approaches. But it kind of just depends on, that grade change and then what we need for an angle and how far back we need to go. On Main Street, the 2 of those tracks will be removed that are no longer in use. And then on Rome Street, we are going to have them widen that. Right now, I think it's about 22 feet wide, but at least, 26 to 28, I think is what we have in there. So in the future, because there's no curb on that road or anything now, so if and when that road is, reconstructed in the future, we're not all of a sudden just have a bottleneck right at the railroad crossing there. And then I don't recall on Hall Street here any notable exceptions or items other than kind of how this intersection plays with the railroad and any signals that we're going to have some kind of in the weeds meeting with the DOT and the railroad for where those are proposing to be placed, and how that might affect traffic patterns and what's kind of that safe approach. And then when we've, same thing on Finn, but on this section of sidewalk here, we've asked them to go back further and have that be 8 foot wide. So when we do sidewalk widening there for trails or things like that, we already got an exploit crossing. All of them will be concrete, a little bit more expensive up front, but it will hopefully last a couple more decades, and we won't have to 30, 40 years before we'll have to get into these again. Looks like most of these, the heavy work on these were done in the early 80s, just going through some of the files in the basement.
Any other capital project plans, Jacob, or not so much tonight?
Nothing, moments.
All right, it's 6:12, and we're at the end of our published agenda, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.